You can format most parts of a reporting services chart by pointing and clicking on that part. Once you've selected a part of the chart, you can manipulate the properties of that part using the Properties window, or by right-clicking on the part and selecting its Custom Properties dialog box, or using various custom pop-up menu items. You can select just about any part of the chart and then set its various properties here within the Properties window. So there I've selected the chart portion of it, and you can see the categorized list of properties that are available for customizing that part of the chart. I can select the series legend there, and also the chart title, the axes, and so forth. All of these chart areas also have dedicated dialog boxes that you can get to by right-clicking an area of a chart and selecting the appropriate properties. So if I select the chart itself right there, I have chart area properties, and now I have this dialog box that I can use to select multiple properties. Now this is usually a little bit more convenient for the properties that it supports, because very often you'll change one property here and it may actually affect the value settings of multiple properties. And it also gives you a nice categorization of the different options as well. All right, so that's the chart area properties. I'll select the chart legend there and the legend properties, and now we have a different dialog box that lets you do things such as select the legend position. It's currently on the side of the chart in the upper right, but you could also change it to the upper right above the chart and so forth around all directions. And then there's various other options like visibility of the font, fill, border, and shadow, and so forth. Now, one thing you need to know about the various chart dialog boxes, well, these custom dialog boxes, is that not all of a part's properties can be changed using them. As is fairly usual in reporting services, the Properties window is the definitive access point for almost all properties. And more, the label of the property in the custom dialog box may differ from its name in the Properties window. For example, a chart's title is referred to as the title text in the chart title property box, but the property name as is included in the Properties window is labeled caption. Just be aware that there's some inconsistencies in naming there. All right, now as a third alternative, you can manipulate some chart properties using right-click menu options. So if I right-click here again on the legend, notice that I have various options to delete the legend, do various things with the chart, and show the legend title or not. I can select on the chart, right-click there, and notice that I have different options for that particular part. And in particular, I can show the vertical axis or show the horizontal axis. Control those independently. Okay, so this chart that I have shown here, I'll hide the Properties dialog box there and make a little bit more room to work with. This chart is definitely a little rough around the edges. Kind of unprofessional looking, and not everything is labeled. So what I'm going to do now is make various improvements so that the chart is ready to print or show to management. So I'm going to do things like change the chart title, change the x-axis and y-axis titles so they identify what the data is. I'm going to remove the legend because there's only one series in this chart, so it's kind of redundant to have a legend label there. If I have multiple series, fine, but it would be better to include this kind of information in the chart title instead. And then I'll also add a 3D perspective to the chart. And I'll use various techniques in order to change the properties that I need to affect in order to change the appearance of the report. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is change the chart title. I clicked on once to select the text box and then use the mouse in order to select the text. So I'm going to name this chart the Annual Adventure Works Sales. Okay? And I'll go ahead and hit enter in order to save that change. You do have to be careful with hitting enter in many text boxes because as often as not that'll add a new line to the text box. Okay, I also want to format the chart title, so I'll just single click on it again. If I clicked again now, I would select the text within it and format that, but I just want to select the text box. And then I want to right-click on it and select Title Properties. So I'll select the font page, and I'll set the size to 14 points. And there's various other things I can do to change that font. I can change the font entirely, change the color and various things, but that's good enough for now. And so now we have a much larger font there. All right, I want to get rid of this legend, so I'll right-click on that and use the custom menu item here for that object and delete the legend. And notice that the chart adjusts itself to fill in the space that was taken up by that legend. Legends are good, but if they're not really conveying useful information, it's better to give the room to the chart itself. Okay, now I want to change the axis title for the x-axis. And this is going to be the year, so I'll change that. And I'll once again select that. And this time, I'll use the Report Formatting toolbar in order to format this axis title. Oh, and actually I want to format these right there. So I want to select the items that label each of the columns within the grid. All right, so I want to change the size to 10 point, make it a little bit bigger. And then I'll use the bold button in order to bold that text. All right, then I also want to change the text for this. Notice that when I select the text within it, it turns horizontally, makes it a little bit easier to type. There we go. And then once again, I'll select the y-axis headings. And then I'll go into the Properties window here. I'm going to go down here to the Title section and expand that property. And I'll expand the font, and I'll set this to 8 point or 10 point as well. Actually, I need to type that in. One of the downsides of using the Properties window, you don't always have a list box of all the most likely options. And I'll set the font weight here to bold. Okay, the other thing I want to do is display the sales numbers here as currency. So I'll go back up here to the Labels section, and I want to set the labels format. Now notice the only option there within the drop-down list is an expression, and I can write an expression to do that. So I need to know the option for this. So I want it to be currency with 0 decimal places. And there you can see the sample numbers there immediately adjust themselves to reflect the format of that data. Okay, now I want to modify the area of the chart itself. So notice that I need to, in order to select the entire chart, I need to select outside of any objects. If I collect any of these bars, I'm selecting the bars. I can select axes and so forth, but I want to select the entire chart. All right, I want to right-click this and Chart Area Properties to open up the custom dialog box. And I want to enable 3D. And as you can see, that enables a number of different properties. I want to change a couple things. Rotation I want to make 20, so I can count that down. And the inclination, and here rather than counting down, I'll just type in 20. And you may have seen that as I made those changes, the chart immediately reflected those changes. So if I count back up, you can see that the chart is immediately changing. I'll count back down. And so if you have a monitor with a little bit more screen real estate, you can see in real time the changes that you're making to the chart, so you can really fine-tune it. All right, that's all the changes I want to make to that, so I'll click on there, and now you can see that we have this nice 3D effect to the chart. Okay, now I want to select the entire chart data region. So notice that I selected outside any of the individual objects, and you can see that I have the selection handles right here, the resizing handles that are displayed. So I've selected the entire chart data region. And I'll go back over here to the Properties window, and I can make sure that I have the chart data region selected here in the drop-down list. And I can adjust the size of the chart. So I can scroll back down here to Position and Size. And I want to set the width to 7 inches. Notice that it has the values when I was just dragging the size, which is kind of a random number. And I'll set the height here to 5 inches. Okay, so I'll go back over to the chart. And notice that we have now a much improved appearance to the chart. Notice that I just have placeholders here. This is just basically random numbers starting at 0. And then I don't have the years here because I'm not yet displaying any real data. But now I can preview the report, and there's our completed chart.